The present situation in Manipur is accentuated by drug mafia.
So you don't believe the Chief Minister N Biren Singh when he says that this is his fight against drugs?
No, he's not fighting, he's a part of it. He's a part of the drug cartel. He's protecting them. He's their patron. So far, for 3 months, Prime Minister of India has not given a statement about the happening in Manipur, and even the President of India has failed to acknowledge what is taking place in Manipur. So it is a deliberate ignorance of Manipur, because they have been treating our state as a third-class citizen since we merged with India.
Do you have proof of everything that you are saying?
Yes.
Including the fact that you were called to the Chief Minister's residence? You have proof?
I have witnesses also.
Murmurs doing rounds in Manipur amidst the ongoing violence, that the trouble could also have its roots, if not genesis, in the drugs and narco-terrorism. At the heart of the problem lies these vast swath of lands usurped for illegal poppy cultivation. Here's the visual proof. Acres of land blooming the little problematic white flowers in Manipur. Manipur Chief Minister N Biren Singh calls it his war against drugs that has antagonized drug lords. But there is someone who disagrees with the Chief Minister. Once a blue-eyed officer, former NAB Additional Superintendent of Police, Thounaojam Brinda, had led a war against drug trafficking. She was awarded Police Medal for Gallantry by N Biren Singh government in 2018. Years down the line, she had revolted against the same Chief Minister and resigned from the force. We caught up with her and she had a lot to share.
It's been over 3 months that violence has started in Manipur and it's still unabated. There are many theories, many analogies, many questions being asked by many people. But the fact of the matter on the ground is there are people who are suffering. And thus the larger question that needs further investigation as what is that one thing, or what is one of those many things that is possibly adding fuel to the fire, and that one thing needs to be arrested first thing first. Joining us in this conversation is Ms. Thounaojam Brinda, a former police officer with Manipur Police Service. She has a track record of resigning twice because there was alleged interference that had led to confrontation, but the better track record that she had is of her work in trying to control narcotics, drugs smuggled through the Burma border that had entered into India via Manipur. Thus, I'm speaking to you, ma'am.
Hello.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
There are many people who are suggesting that there could be an element of narco-terrorism behind this. Do you believe that is a possibility?
The present situation in Manipur is an accumulated effect of long-term bad government policy that has been going on for over last 70 years and accentuated by drug mafia. Because when we look back into our history, poppy cultivation and the drug proliferation, it started from the late 80s and it aggravated from there onwards. And there is again another collateral lies increase in the rate of militant groups from the hills with the rise in drug proliferation and poppy cartel. So the present situation that we are seeing hasn't taken place in one day.
Okay.
It has taken over many decades, and the immediate spark that has led to this conflict right now has been given from the narcotics mafia that is comprised of many powerful individuals.
What gives you the confidence to say that? How are you so sure that it is because of drug mafias and narco-terrorism that the problem has accentuated to this level?
Because number one, I am a Manipuri. I have been born and brought up here. I love my land before anything else. So naturally, for any patriot, he or she has to know her history. I know my history. I was an activist I became a police. And as a police, I worked in narcotics, fought in it, and I know it.
When you say there are high and mighty involved, how deep-rooted is this?
It is very deep-rooted, especially the nexus between the government and the narcotics mafia.
When you say government?
Government at different levels, because when we see poppy being grown in the hill districts of Manipur, we all know that hill districts of Manipur are infested with poppy cultivation. This infestation has not taken place in one day, 1 year, or even a decade. It has taken decades. So the immediate question that comes to any reasonable police officer in his or her right mind is that could this have taken place without the active and passive encouragement and the patronage of the state administration? Because in the hill districts, DCs are functioning there, all the state departments are there, central departments are there, central forces are there, state police is there. So when this cartel has been spreading, poppy pills have been spreading like wildfire in the hills for the last over 30 years. So does it mean that state administration is not present in the hills? And then secondly, even the government of Manipur has admitted that militants under suspension of operation are involved in drugs. So these militants are supposed to be in the custody of the state government. And the ceasefire agreement they have entered into is a tripartite agreement between the government of India, government of Manipur, and these militant groups. These groups, which are supposed to be in the custody of the government of Manipur, whose weapons have been surrendered, they are given certain amount of weapons only to guard their designated camps. If we find them roaming around collecting taxes, involved in human trafficking, in drugs, collecting taxes from poppy fields, from drug cartel, they themselves involved in drug activities, then what is the involvement of the government of Manipur, which is in control, which is in custody of these militants?
Okay, I was talking to officers from Assam Rifles, and the official statement suggests that in over 2-3 years they had seized drugs worth 35,000 crore. That possibly indicates how vulnerable that corridor is. Which are the points, More, which are the points which you would identify as most vulnerable?
See, Manipur, we have these 6 routes passing from Myanmar to Manipur. Only one is manned, the Technopal Highway. Only this highway is manned. Rest of the highways, they are not manned. Completely free and open. I don't know. You have to ask the government of Manipur why these highways are being left open. This is the question that I have been putting up to them. Why you are leaving all these highways open and putting up a show only on Technopal Highway? Why?
The smuggling which is happening from Myanmar, allegedly coming to India via these routes, the checkpoints are not being kept deliberately, you would say?
That is the rationality I am trying to find in the conduct of the state government. Because if they are sincerely conducting this war on drugs, why they are leaving all these corridors open and wide and free?
How do you respond, or how do you react first when you see N Biren Singh, the current Chief Minister, say that this is actually his war against drugs? The fact that it has seen such retaliation from people, he is saying that because he is taking the right step in elimination of drugs from the state for the interest of India's national security, is thus these protests are happening.
No. See, politicians, they will claim anything, but we have to corroborate that from their actions. So as a police in narcotics at the time when I was working, I'll give you an example. If there is a war, there are 3 elements that are required. In war, you need an army or a force, you need weapons, and you need money.
3.
So in NAB, while I was posted, I had around 150 personnel. But whenever an IO would conduct an investigation in depth, the IO would automatically get transferred out. So slowly,
Sorry, when you were doing investigation, your IO would be transferred?
yes, the IO, if he or she digs a bit deeper into the case, then automatically they will be transferred out.
Okay.
Slowly manpower was reduced. So there, Narcotics and Border Affairs of Manipur, NAB, this is controlling the whole entire region of the state in terms of narcotics and the foreign influx and the arms. These are the three charters of the unit. So a unit that is responsible for taking on these drugs, if there is real war, then shouldn't its manpower and strength be increased? So it was decreased, number one. Number two, weapons. We had no adequate weapons. So we are supposed to be given all the assistance by the Home Department, number two. Number three, there was no source money. Because when you seize drugs, you need huge amount of money. Because we have got two sources of intelligence. One is the State Legal Interception Unit, which is supposed to work to uncover these crimes, to detect these criminals. But we do not have access to that unit. We don't know what it is being utilized for. So we had access only to human intelligence, whom we call as human. For that, once you seize the drugs, you have to give 30 amount of that market value of that seized drugs to the source immediately. So when you seize a drug worth 1 crore, you have to immediately give 30 lakhs. So these are huge amount of money that is required for operating these drug seizures. So no money was sanctioned from the government of Manipur. So three elements required in war are not present in this war. So my question is whether if there is real war. But
So
from my
this-
experience,
this is your experience.
from my experience, there never was war and there never is war, because when the chief minister orders the officer who arrested this politician with drugs from his own premises, when the chief minister orders illegally to release the person in exchange of his wife or son, then how genuine he is in this so-called war.
I need to know this in details. Why can't you take names? You had arrested somebody. Who is that somebody?
Lukhosejau.
Okay.
Yes.
And he was a minister.
He was the chairman of EDC Autonomous District Council
Okay. Okay.
from Tamal.
And when did you arrest him?
2018 June.
And on what charges?
He was arrested with drugs from his premises
In possession.
in possession.
Do you remember the quantity?
It was a huge operation that lasted over 14 hours. So we seized drugs from his driver's quarter, two full bags of suitcases with heroin and WY tablets. And then another was recovered from Manipur that was again his relative with huge amount of drugs and money, cash, lakhs. And then the last one was recovered from his residence, 2 lakhs number of WI tablets from his premises.
And he belonged to which political party?
He was BJP at the time. The minister sent the Vice President of BJP Vice President of Manipur to my residence.
N Biren Singh sent
Yes,
the BJP Vice President to your residence.
to my residence and ordered that I release the arrested EDC Chairman in exchange of his wife or son, because he turned out to be the right-hand man of his second wife, Olish, who is the elected MLA from Chandel constituency. That was the order he gave.
N Biren Singh's second wife,
Second wife,
who is the current MLA,
current MLA.
and this man, former ADC, was her right-hand person. That's
Yes.
what you claim. Okay. Then when the Vice President came to your house and said that, what did you do?
I told him that's not possible because we seized the drugs from him. His wife and son are not culprits. So that cannot be done, and after all, I conducted the operation with over 150 police personnel. What am I going to tell them? And that he may sacrifice Manipur and her interest for his second wife, but I am there. Go and tell him that I am there for Manipur, and then I'll face everything. He went back, came back again, told me that second wife was very furious that I refused to hit her order. And then again I sent him back that this is not going to work on me. And again he came back the third time. The third time also I sent them back. They can do anything what they want, but I won't listen to them. This
Then what happened?
I went ahead with the arrest.
Was he produced before court?
Yes, he was produced. He was sent to jail.
For how many days?
For some months, from June till December, I guess. December, yes.
And then?
And then in December, we submitted our charge sheet before the experiment of this mandatory 180 days. Not to let him open bail, because by then he was already playing this drama that he needed medical bail on medical grounds, absolute bail. And then knowing that he was fooling around, we investigated thoroughly. And there was huge argument in the court that this man was faking his medical condition. We needed to produce him before a board, which is mandatory again, medical board. So they refused the medical board. And after that, he was given a preliminary bail for some few days to get the gallstone operated. But he disappeared from the Jennings hospital.
What?
The man disappeared from the Jennings hospital. Before the disappearance, in December 14, 2018, the then DGP called my SP and me to his office and gave the order that the Honorable Chief Minister had given him order that we should remove the charge sheet from the court.
How do you remove charge sheet from court?
Yeah, exactly. So I told him that there are only two conditions in which charge sheet can be removed from the court. One is when the IO is not satisfied that there are some lapses in there, some more investigation required to be done in the case. In that condition, the IO can file an application to the court to remove the charge sheet. And the second condition is when the judge is not satisfied with the charge sheet, and then he can return it back to us. Both of which conditions are not available in the present case. So it was not possible for us to remove the charge sheet. I told the DGP that. And the DGP again ordered us that you have done everything what you want. Now why don't you just let things go easy?
Who was the DGP then?
LM Khote.
Okay.
And he again pressured that, see, Honorable has said, please remove the charge sheet. I didn't say anything. We just left his office, came out. And again in the evening, my SP was called by the minister. He came back, running back. At the time, we were having a meeting with the prosecution additional SP and the prosecution PI. We were having a meeting in my office about this pressure. And then we were discussing that this has never taken place in the whole world. If we do this, then we are all doomed. We can never listen to this order. This is what we were discussing, and then my SP came running back, all sweat, and his heartbeat was pumping. He was visibly very under very high stress. He came back and told us that the Honorable is very furious. His eyes were popping out. We have to remove the charge sheet. But we took the unanimous decision that no, we won't do it. We didn't remove it. And the very next day, then Oshi and the IO went to the court to find out about the whereabouts of the charge sheet in the court, if it was safe there. While they were there, the then Impala SP, along with the lawyer of this Lukoseijo, came to the court and asked the PP to hand over the charge sheet to them. When the PP refused, they again directed the Oshi to remove the charge sheet from the court, which the Oshi again refused, and then they went inside the court office and then checked everything, and then they left. They just found out this took place in the court, which is huge anomaly, which legally they can never do. They can never come and interfere in the court. So the judge called upon the Oshi, the IO, then PP and me, and inquired about the incident, and they told us to submit an affidavit to the judge about what happened on 15th of December. Oshi gave his affidavit, PP gave his affidavit, and then hell broke loose. Was there all over the news. And the Chief Minister called me and gave me a thorough scolding in his bungalow. And after that, the EDC Chairman, he disappeared from Manipur. The judge got transferred. A new judge came, and then suddenly he appeared, saying that he was kidnapped by Kuki militants based in Myanmar, and then he had been released, and he wanted to surrender to the court when there was a new judge in place. And in between that, the remnants of the case that was returned from the FSL to the police station, it was again lost. So they tried to build up a case that based on technical grounds, because of loss of remnants, that the case would fail, which I again vehemently argued in the court that we should conduct an inquiry into the loss of this remnant, because the loss of this remnant benefits certain people only, that is the accused, not the police. So we have to find if they have got any hand in the loss of these remnants, which is likely possible. So this is what took place, and the judge eventually let off the man on bail and then acquitted the man and left only with 2 young boys, the driver and another young boy. So that is what took place.
So that ADC was acquitted?
He was acquitted.
What happened to you?
I later on kept on fighting with the Chief Minister. He filed so many cases against me. Defamation suits demanding 50 crores, 550 crores in total from all the respondents. He has made everybody, all his aides file cases against me, file FIR against me. So I've been battling till now. So these things are going on, and then we are coming to this stage. Somebody who protected.
You resigned?
I resigned. Ultimately, I had to resign. I was transferred out of NAB, put in the almost in a suspension kind of position in the police headquarters with no duties assigned, nothing. I didn't report to that posting, and then I eventually had to leave the service. I already submitted an affidavit in the State High Court about the whole sequence of events. I'm waiting for the case to open up, for the case to be further investigated, so that I can clarify to the people of Manipur that whatever I submitted in the court, whatever I stood for, was right. I'm waiting for that day.
Okay. So you don't believe the Chief Minister N Biren Singh when he says that this is his fight against drugs?
No, he's not fighting, he's a part of it.
You are saying that he is benefited out of it?
Yes, he's a part of the drug cartel. He's protecting them. He's their patron.
When you say high and mighty are involved, have you ever felt scared for your own safety?
No, never.
Okay. And what proof do you have that he's actually saving the mafias?
Number one,
I'm curious to understand this, because you are making a very strong allegation against the Chief Minister, and he has already filed so many defamation cases against you.
number one, the case in the State High Court. This should be opened up, and there should be further investigation of this ADC case. If it is further investigated, then I'll have to submit all my statements and evidence of the involvement of the Chief Minister, his second wife, in protecting and acquitting the arrested EDC Chairman. Secondly, the involvement of the government of Manipur directly in drug mafia is easily proven by its association with militants under suspension of operation, which are in his custody. And thirdly, regarding the present violent crisis, we have to question, why did the government of Manipur fail to take effective action to control the violence that erupted in Churachandpur on the 3rd of May itself?
Absolutely.
Why it took so long? Later on he admitted that it was intelligence failure. So what we should ask is, didn't the SP of Churachandpur district inform the Chief Minister? Didn't the DC of Churachandpur district inform the Chief Minister when the forest bid office was vandalized and burnt? Several government offices were vandalized and burnt by 11:30. So it takes only a fraction of a second, isn't it, to give a call to the Chief Minister by hotline to inform him that this had taken place. By 3:34, it had reached civilian population. The Meitei villages were burned down, were torched. So my question is, what made him so long to respond to the crisis that was going to easily, turn into a communal violence? Why didn't he effectively respond? Number one. Number two, on 3rd of May, you also tried to dig deeper into this. 3rd of May, why I particularly remember this very day is that these riot control forces, central forces, were all over the road, this highway. They were strewn all over the road, which is very uncommon. We haven't seen them for a very long time in Manipur. So we wondered, is there any law and order situation in the state that these forces are being deployed? What's taking place here? And we simply wondered. By late afternoon, we came back. The number of these forces had increased on the road of Manipur. By evening, we got information that violence had broke out in Churachandpur. It had turned communal. And by late evening, internet was shut down. What made him deploy all those riot control forces in Imphal from the morning of 3rd? What was the reason? What was the intelligence that he had?
You also have contested election from a different political party. How would you defend yourself if somebody says that what you are saying today or your allegations are politically motivated?
See, I was fighting the last 2 governments before I joined politics. I was already taking my stand, always stood by it, never wavered a single moment. And I was forced to join politics because as a police, I could not do anything in this system to improve the condition of my state and the people.
Do you think this is actually an ethnic violence? Would you call it an ethnic violence?
No, this is not an ethnic violence. The current issue is fight between anti-Manipur entities who are backed by the drug mafia, and this drug mafia is completely controlled by this top 3 echelon of the entire cartel, whom I categorically, classify into 4 categories. So number 1 in the top level are the politicians and drug lords who work hand in hand together. And the second are the financiers and the middlemen who operate between the producers and the top echelon. And the third one is the militant groups. These militant groups are all from suspension, people on suspension of operation. Fourth one are the peddlers and the poppy farmers, which are very poor. They share the minimum amount of profits. They are not, they are hand-to-mouth people. So majority of the profits are shared by these first 3 levels. So these whole 3 levels, they occupy the category of narco-terrorists. These are the narco-terrorists who are acting against the interests of the people. They are the ones feeding drugs to the people of Manipur. They are the ones arming these militants who are again backing people, organizing people to claim, to justify their claim that they need a separate administration to balkanize Manipur, blah, 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 this and that. So this is what is taking place. The whole crisis in Manipur is between people who want to break up Manipur, backed by narcotics mafia, and the people of Manipur, who love Manipur, who want to save her.
The arms which are available now on both sides, how do you see that? Like arms in the hills, arms in the plains. You are saying all are illegal? Anybody holding an arm in a situation of this kind, how would you categorize them? If I ask this as a police officer.
See, arms legally, it has to be, we have to hold it under license. Without license, whether in a crisis or otherwise. If you hold an arm, it is illegal.
Right.
It is a crime. So we know in Manipur right now, both the hills and the plain are fully armed.
So those which are not legally procured, do you fear they have all been pumped in by drug lords?
The hills, the weapons being pumped into the hills are funded by drug lords, because to get these weapons you need money, huge amount of money. What is their funding? And as for the arms in the valley, it cannot be funded by drugs. Many of them have been looted from the state armory, which we all know. And people must be using their licensed arms, but the arms and weapons being used in the valley are not from drugs money. That is the difference.
Do you find that surprising that it was looted from state armory and not much of resistance was put up?
It is very surprising. That is the question I have been putting up. What was the Home Minister doing at the time? Because all these battalions and police stations, they are guarded. Sentries are there, are armed. So why wasn't there any sort of resistance from any of these battalions and police stations when these arms were looted?
At this point, if I give you an opportunity to figure out one person who is responsible for the current Manipur crisis, who will that be?
For any crisis that involves administrative failure, there are levels of accountability. The primary responsibility and the accountability should be borne by the head of the government.
Chief Minister.
Yes. It is the Chief Minister who has to hold responsibility and the whole crisis for the last 3 months.
He says that he's being hated and abused by both sides because he's doing the right thing.
But this shows that he has not been able to control the crisis, isn't it? He will be blamed automatically because he is responsible for governance, for administration, for law and order, everything. That's why he has been elected. That's why he has been put in that chair by the people, isn't it? He is responsible for everything. He will be blamed automatically, naturally, by both the communities because people are suffering. We want him to bring things under control, to restore normalcy, which he has not been able to do effectively for the last 3 months. So why he is trying to put the blame on the people instead of taking up his responsibility and holding himself accountable for his failure?
He wanted to resign once, he said, and then his resignation was torn off.
Do you believe in the drama that he put up? Can't we, naturally make out that this was a drama? It's very obvious in the whole scene.
The poppy cultivation, you are saying it's a reality in the hills of Manipur.
It is.
To what extent?
It is virulent.
It has?
Virulent. It is a pandemic status.
Okay. Any square kilometer assessment that you can give?
See, unfortunately, the state agencies, we do not have any data. So far, it has been going on for the last over 30 years, but we have failed to have any data of how much area is under poppy cultivation. But it is virulent. When you go to the hills, you will find out, send up a drone, limited amount of hill ranges are contiguously covered with poppy everywhere. So far, for 3 months, Prime Minister of India has not given a statement about the happening in Manipur except for the 30-second long statement that was given on the viral video. Except on that portion, he hasn't issued any statement of what is taking place in Manipur till now. And even the President of India has failed to acknowledge what is taking place in Manipur. So it is a deliberate ignorance of Manipur, because they have been treating our state as a third-class citizen since we merged with India. Hence, we have been fighting for our life and the right to exist with dignity. which we have not been given till now.
When you say there are many people involved, high and mighty, so far you have said you have taken the name of N Biren Singh, the current Chief Minister. When you say more people are involved, what are you indicating? Is it not restricted to him, or there are more people from the party, or can this also have its wings and tentacles outside Manipur?
See, the tentacles of the drug mafia, I feel that it has reached the Indian Parliament, directly or indirectly. Because these people are so capable that, in the present case of this acquitted Lukosai Zhou, this man was able to influence and buy the Minister of Manipur. He influenced the judiciary, he influenced the police department, he could buy each and everybody who are, buyable. So imagine the power of this drug mafia. Imagine their might, imagine their strength. They can creep into everywhere. They have crept into all the institutions of the state machineries. Intelligence, finance, state administration, state police department, everywhere. So I'm telling that government of India may ignore this crisis, because time and again I have been requesting them that we fight this out together, because it is already a national security threat and it is going to cost the nation heavily.
Have you written any letter in the past?
I have written many.
To
the Prime Minister. We formed a body called 3.5. It's a conglomeration of civil society organizations. We have written to the Prime Minister, to the Home Minister. We have even filed cases in the Supreme Court. We have worked very hard. We have informed them, clandestinely also. We have given a lot of report, confidential videos, everything that's taking place in Manipur. They haven't listened. They
have not responded.
No, they haven't responded. We are seeing the response now. This silent
response. So you're
response.
saying there is no response from the government of India to all the letters, to all the evidences that you have given so far?
Nothing.
Oh, a lot of things you said and a lot to process. Thounaojam Brinda, it was a pleasure talking to you. And she believes that the current crisis in Manipur has its genesis in the larger drug narco terrorism, and for which she has given out a lot of details and has squarely held the current Chief Minister N Biren Singh responsible. And she believes that it is not a fight against narco terrorism which has resulted to this. She believes that the fight that she had started and others had started had been suppressed over the decades is what has resulted to the current crisis. There are several cases against her before the court that also include defamation cases, but that hasn't stopped her from speaking out. She has spoken once again, and she has also said the tentacles of the drug and the drug business, terrorism, might have reached India's capital, New Delhi. It could be a matter of concern. Thus the question is, what you're seeing now here in Manipur, is that just a facade? With video journalist Ronnie Shatra, here in Imphal, this is Tamal Saha for News the Truth, NTT. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
Thank you.